Hello, this is QMG, the quantum guy, and I have today a very interesting paper called Simulating Quantum Time Travel Disproves the Butterfly Effect in Quantum Realm. It's a very interesting paper because it shows that if you could return a quantum system back in time, reverse the process, in other words, and then damage something in that past, and then return to the present, you could actually return that information that you destroyed. Now, it sounds very, very interesting from a classical point of view because your intuition would say that if you return to a previous state and you damage in a classical system part of that state, when you return, you cannot bring back that state. So, in this particular process, which is very useful, is going to become, it could be very useful for quantum computing. It is possible to destroy some information and then return it. Or you could also think of it as you hide some information and then that information appears at some point. What I like about this paper is this right here that you see, what you see right there, because it shows you what is going on, exactly how they did their experiment. Okay, so typically you see Alice sending information in most quantum schemes, and Bob is the one screwing it up in some ways. So we're gonna see that the same characters in this story, and we have a circuit right here, which you could actually try to do with the IBM Quantum Experience platform. Okay, I will also show you a little piece of the actual paper that was published in the journal, so that to inspire you to try it. I might try this one at some point and do a follow-up to this talk. Okay, so let me read this paper. Let's see what the article says. And I like reading this paper because it tries to simplify much of what's going on. In research by a team at Los Alamos National Laboratory, Alice prepares her qubit and applies the information scramble unitary U to this and many other qubits altogether. Bob measures her qubits in any basis, flipping the qubits to the state not known to Alice. Alice still can reconstruct her information via a single decoding unitary matrix U dagger. Okay, so that is very clearly stated right in that little abstract. As you can see, Alice, let me take my pen, my black pen. Okay, so here the information starts right there. Okay, and as you can see, there is a gate here, P, that's going to allow to prepare the information that you are entering to the system. So you can start with the zero state, and then you can flip it with that gate, that P gate, and put it in state 1, right? So you can shape the initial state with the first gate, right? Now notice right here that you also have a U gate, and notice that there are 3 channels connected to that one. can connect my pen. It seems like it's not working. All right. So as you can see, there is a U gate connected to 3 channels. That gate, the U gate, is entangling in a very clever way the first, second, and third qubit. Right here. This is entangling all the information. And I will show you the paper that shows you explicitly what's inside that gate. Then that information, what comes out of Alice line, it will go through that R gate. That R gate basically, it changes, it drains the information coming from Alice's path of information. And then if you look underneath, that information will be measured, okay, right here. So whatever comes out of it will be measured by Bob. As you can see, there is a C naught gate connected to Bob, right? So Bob will have access to the information that comes right out of the R gate. Will measure it. Now, when Bob measures that information, if that information is measuring a basis that is different from what was coming out, it's going to be destroyed, right? So you will get something random. And so in that way, Bob really doesn't really know what the information was necessarily. But after this point, after it goes through that measurement, somebody right here, you could say, around this point, you could say, could tap into it, and that person will not know what was initially sent through that channel, right? So the information that started with Alice somehow was destroyed, and you cannot determine that information at that point, right? So in a way, it's kind of hidden. Well, think like, well, I'll come up with the analogy a little later. Okay. Now, notice there is an S gate right there after that. That's a flipping gate. This paper doesn't say that. It's a flipping gate. And then it goes into U dagger, okay, which is supposed to turn it back. All right. Now let's continue reading the paper, and let's look at the details. Okay. This is very interesting. Evolving quantum process backwards on a quantum computer to damage information in the simulated past causes little change when returned to the present. Right? So I guess the analogy is, another analogy is like breaking a plate and damaging one of the pieces, okay, and then putting it back together, and somehow that piece, I guess, is no longer damaged. Something like that, right? Just an intuition. Using a quantum computer to simulate time travel, researchers have demonstrated that in the quantum realm, there is no butterfly effect. In the research, information, qubits or quantum bits, time travel into the simulated past. One of them is then strongly damaged, like stepping on a butterfly, metaphorically speaking. Surprisingly, when all qubits return to the present, they appear largely unaltered, as if reality is itself healing, right? And I like the fact that they put it in quotation marks, time travel, because this is not really like time travel. It's a metaphor. And also the butterfly effect here is used as a metaphor, of course, because there is a difference between time travel and what we're doing here. We're doing a time reversal of some process, right? There's nothing strange about returning pieces the way you started. Time travel, usually refers to, I would say, from science fiction, I imply that it means making sure the entropy goes in the opposite direction, right? Things, instead of entropy tending to a maximum, somehow the reverse starts happening, right? And you can see that when very clearly when you watch a movie, right? If you see pieces of a car getting assembled together in a movie, you know it's running backwards, right? So there's no violation of thermodynamics here. That's what they mean, I believe, with the time travel quotation marks there. So let's keep reading. On a quantum computer, there is no problem simulating opposite in time evolution or simulating running process backwards into the past, said Nikolai Sin, a theoretical physicist at Los Alamos National Laboratory and co-author of a paper with Bin Yan, a postdoc in the Center for Nonlinear Studies, also at Los Alamos. So we can actually see what happens with a complex quantum world if we travel back in time, add a small damage, and return. We found that our world survives, which means there is no butterfly effect in quantum mechanics. And of course, he's speaking metaphorically. Nothing like looking at the diagram that was presented right at the beginning, right? That explains it more clearly. Okay. Okay, so in Ray Bradbury, 1952 science fiction story, Sound of Thunder. Okay, well, I would like to omit this paragraph, but basically it talks about where that word butterfly effect comes into place. And you know what? I can present a better example, I think. Back to the Future, right? Back to the Future, somebody returns to the past, changes something about the past. Then, when people from the future return to that present, quote unquote, the past that was altered in that present is changed, right? So I think that's a better example of that, right? In this case, you could say that um, somebody can return to the past, metaphorically speaking, okay? We're just using metaphors here, please. Don't confuse the science fiction with the science. And then that little damage that they do doesn't have really an effect, right? You can return the information that you changed in the past somehow, right? So let's keep reading. Instead, Yan and Sinitsyn found that simulating a return to the past to cause a small local damage in quantum system leads to only small insignificant local damage in the present. Okay, so so it causes a damage, but very minimal. Okay, and I guess that's a matter of interpretation what they mean by minimal. We're gonna look at the circuit more carefully right now. This effect has potential application in information hiding hardware and testing quantum information devices. Information can be hidden by a computer by converting the initial state into a strongly entangled one. We found that even if an intruder performs state damaging measurements on the strongly entangled state, we still can easily recover that useful information because this damage is not magnified by a decoding process. Notice there is a keyword entanglement, right? So the way in which you can hide that piece of information is in an entanglement, right? You can break that little piece, but the entanglement of the other parts remains in some way. So that is the trick that is used here to recover the information, right? The entanglement is maintained. Let's keep reading here. Yan said this justifies talks about creating quantum hardware that will be used to hide information. This new finding could also be used to test whether a quantum processor is in fact working by quantum principles. And this paragraph is very interesting. So in the previous paragraph, they tell you one application, right? One application is that you can hide it in the entanglement, right? Um, Somebody, after the measurement, like I show you at the beginning, you don't know what was the original message, so it's kind of hidden from you. But then after it passes through the second gate, sort of everything comes into place, right? So you hit it during that particular period of time. Here's another application. Um, since the newfound no butterfly effect is purely quantum, if a processor runs Yan and Sinit systems and shows this effect, then it must be a quantum processor. So also this system could, I guess, demarcate between a processor is working properly, right? If you can actually do that, well, then it's working properly, right? Okay. So two applications, two practical applications of this process, this algorithm. To test the butterfly effect in a quantum systems, Yan and Sinitsyn use a theory and simulations with the IBM Q quantum processor to show how a circuit could evolve a complex system by applying quantum gates with forward and backwards cause and effect. And I kind of I disagree a little bit with the language there with forward and backwards cause and effect. When you have an entanglement, you have correlation of measurements, not causation. So I think it is confusing to start putting in a paragraph cause and effect, right? Because we're dealing with correlations, not causations and effects, right? And that's, I think, is the key to understand the process that is taking place here and how it is different from a classical system. Presto, a quantum time machine simulator. Metaphorically speaking, right? In the team's experience, Alice, a favorite stand-in agent used for quantum thought experiments, prepares one of her qubits in the present time and runs it backwards through the quantum computer. In the deep past, an intruder, Bob, another favorite stand-in, measures Alice's qubits. This action disturbs the qubits and destroys all its quantum correlation with the rest of the world. Next, the system is run forward to the present time. So as I show you, right, you have an entanglement. You break one of the pieces by measuring it in some basis that breaks it or could break it because it's random. And then the entanglement is still maintaining the other pieces. So you take whatever piece is missing, whatever piece is damaged with the rest of the entanglement and pass it through that machine to reconstruct the original information in the broken piece. According to Ray Bradbury, Bob's small damage to the state and all those correlations in the past should be quickly magnified during the complex forward in time evolution. Hence, Alice should be able to recover her information at the end, right? Which is what I show in the circuit of Bob, right? But that's not what is in the circuit of Bob. So there is a contrast right here, but that's not what happened. Yan and Sinitsyn found that most of the presently local information was hidden in the deep past in the form of an essentially quantum correlations that could not be damaged by minor tampering. They show that the information returns to Alice's qubit without much damage despite Bob's interference. Counterintuitively, for a deeper travels to the past and for bigger worlds, Alice's final information returns to her even less damage, right? Returns even less damage. Well, it is not so counterintuitive if you remove the idea of cause and effect, right? As I mentioned, notice that in this paragraph they are more careful by stating the meaning of an entanglement, right? Correlated measurements, That's what an entanglement is. You can think that the three pieces have coordinated measurements, right? There can be many interpretations, by the way, of that entanglement. I like to think that they are coordinated. Some people like to think in terms of many worlds, right? From the entanglement, there are so many worlds that can come out, and that's another way of looking at the situation. We found that the notion of chaos in classical physics and in quantum mechanics must be understood differently. Sinitsyn said. Okay, so, all right, so there's, yeah, so now let me show you. Let me go back to the original circuit. So, of course, right at the end, you do the measurement and you return the information that you started with. Okay, now, as I said, let me show you the actual paper. Here it is. So there it is, the U. As you can see, it's you can see very clearly the entanglement, right? As you can see, there are two Hadamard gates, right? So you can see one right there, okay? You can see one right there. So you can think that so Alice is right here on the first channel, right? Okay. And the other two qubits are underneath, right? Now notice this paper doesn't, well, you don't notice that, but I can tell you they don't show you what is the inverse of these gate. Okay, I'll let you think about it for homework. Okay. As you can see, this is a circuit that can be done in the IBM Quantum Experience. If you have been following my videos, you know that you can have access to the platform for the IBM Quantum Experience and actually do this one right here, right? I have constructed several entangled states with three qubits. I haven't done this one in particular, but here's something that you can try, right? Very easy. Okay, and I could actually try this one and just show you. Sometimes in the IBM Quantum Experience, you have to do a little bit of hacks, but trying this is a great way to test, right, your understanding and sometimes it will allow you to think of some hacks to do to the platform in some situations, right, if necessary. Okay. Well, it was fun being here with you, and I guess I will see you next time. And like always, okay, for those about to quantum, we salute you. See you next time.